Okay, Verona, so who are we listening to? Because I don't know what's going on.
I don't know, and I'm gonna be in control of the podcast today. So we are discovering, you and me, a band called President. It's one of my students, hi Abby, who said, "Hey, you should do a reaction with Mark on that band." And she's I think 15 years old, I think. She's a teenager.
Okay.
Yeah. And she has really good musical taste, so I believe her. It's going to be good.
Well, thank you, Abby, for the suggestion. Appreciate you. The only thing I've seen some screenshots of President, and maybe a couple little videos coming through the old FYP. And a buddy of mine, he's got a channel as well. His name is Orion. That's what he goes by. I actually don't know his real name. I have no idea what it is.
It's his artist name.
I know he's a fan, and he reacted recently. So when you brought it up, I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. So normally I intro the band, but literally the guy wears a mask.
We don't know. So we're just we're really vocal coach reacting to something brand new, for real. That's going to be our real reaction faces. And we're just going to, as usual, play, pause, analyze, say what we hear, and share our thoughts about it and just go through the song. You ready?
I'm a little interested to see how this will go, because if anybody's watching this channel for the first time, the dynamic we have here is that I am like a death metal and a deathcore coach. I teach people how to go and Verona, you teach people how to do more angelic, powerful,
not really angelic
belty.
For our Cardivox guys and girls. It's mostly, high belting notes and mixed voice, and just get that register up there. And
I think that sounds angelic. Like when Floor in Nightwish,
compared to
when she sings that way. Yeah. When I say angelic, I don't just mean a little candle and soft wings. I also mean a Valkyrie with a spear.
Oh yeah. Okay. That type of angels.
That's an angel too, but she's killing dragons and shit.
Yeah.
So Floor and all of them, they're angelic, but just in a much more intense way. But I'm ready. I hope
we're gonna have something to say.
Viewers, I hope this works out. Let's hit it. Whenever you're ready.
I'm in charge.
You're in charge.
Listen.
Nope. Yes, ma'am.
President, new song, Doom Loop. Let's go.
There is no satisfactory explanation of time. Why? Because it doesn't really exist. The tragedy of time is that we only understand its value after it's become a memory.
I can do what we see, not the memories. I find it hard to breathe when I'm not in your arms. Ascending like butterflies. Can't control where we go in the final sleep. Guess I'm curious to find out where I belong. I hope it's just you and I hope it just takes me home.
Okay. Wow.
Interesting imagery. I'm kind of, I'm going to let you take this one, because this is much more, I have a ton of thoughts. I have a ton of things to say, but this is very much in your neck of the woods. So yeah, what are some things you're noticing? It's an interesting song for sure.
Yeah, I love the beat. It's Abby, she knows we're usually doing heavy metal stuff. So I'm okay, so far it's more electronic vibes, but I'm sure it's gonna get heavier as we keep listening to it. I love the singer's tone, really forward and mid-low register, but you can hear the twang in it, and the kind of a little cry in his na 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 na. Oh, I love it. So that's it. What do you think about it?
I think the way he's singing right now is such a good example of how placement and character are often so much more important than volume. Now, I'm not saying volume doesn't matter, of course, because some singing techniques are loud. That's how it works, right? But right here, he's probably sinking. I hope he's not
Singing?
He's probably singing, not too much louder than his speaking voice, probably a little bit louder. Obviously, it's hard to tell sometimes, but it's very forward. There's a lot of emotion in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, this is true of new screamers, and I'm sure you get this with new singers as well. Their first control mechanism that they want to grab and hold on to is volume and pressure and push. Right now, I don't know this melody, but I use a technique that kind of sounds like this to help students feel forward with like low pressure growls. So if I'm just getting the student to get comfortable with the feeling of grit in general, that's not like a full blown scream, but we'll do what I call like the cat poo noise. You come home and you see that your cat has pooped or like coughed up a hairball on your pillow, and you might go, your mouth isn't super open. It's very relaxed. It's very, and then you can, oh my God, sing into the front. Oh, and then he's adding, like you said, a little bit of that cry. Sounds like a little tiny changes, and like you're saying, like the addition of twang. So the main thing that's making this so interesting for me to listen to is the character he's putting on it, is the emotion. And so it just goes, I don't know who originated this phrase, but for anybody listening to this, and again, I'm a little bit out of my wheelhouse with this song, but this is a beautiful example for all vocalists of how placement is often, pretty much always, in my opinion, so much more important than power. Because if you don't have it placed properly, power doesn't mean stuff. Anyways, I'm yapping, but that's what I take away so far. I really like the control.
It's funny because I had a student just before we record our podcast today, and it was kind of the opposite of your usual students that you're telling me, like they want to push, and that student had a hard time just getting a talking voice out like loud because he's so shy and he's so like reserved and everything. So like that voice for him, like I just wanted to have a similar volume that for you and I, it's just regular talking volume, right? But like for him, it was, am I belting? And I'm like, bro, that's not belting yet. You're just talking outside for someone a little further than like this.
Yeah.
Like, and it was, and so sometimes I have like both type of students, those who just want to yell and they use too much air and they're just destroying their vocal cords. And I'm just like, cool down. And I have the others that I'm just asking to be a little more like outside. And it's a therapy, really. Sometimes vocals lessons. If you're a shy person, you should do it. Well, but yeah, so I feel like that type of sound, it's not as low as we expect, but it's not loud either. It's really like a nice balanced radio host volume, I like to say. Welcome to the radio, na. It's like yeah.
That's a really good way to put it, because that's what I've never been on the radio before, but I've hung out in rooms when radio shows were being recorded. And that's a really good way to put it. Radio host voice.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, you're not just gonna, hello, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna present you songs. It's kind of a salesperson voice as well. Like, hey, do you want to buy la la la? And it's like, you cannot be like too reserved. Anyways, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Let's keep. I'll see if I can work it in later, but I'll tell you what I do when I get students that are super, super quiet. But we can hit the song and then I'll tell you later.
Oh, you'll tell me your tip after? All right.
Well, I want to see if you do something similar, because you got, but yeah, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Let's just do the transition, because I think he was changing his vocal technique. By the way, he's using chest voice right now. Sorry, go what?
Oh, I was just gonna say, that's value. I know that you and I feel like we say that all the time, but there's always, and people watch the videos and sometimes they're like, we already know that. But for every one person who knows that, there are 20 viewers who don't know that.
Exactly. So it's their first vocal reaction video ever.
Exactly.
Shame it's not enough for
a question for you.
Sure.
Oh my God, there's so many techniques in this segment, but I'm just wondering, when we hear like the raspiness, is it his lead voice, or is it like screams other tracks over his clean lead voice? Because I think I was hearing like a couple of other tracks more raspy and like with more harsh vocals, and his voice was cleaner. What do you think?
So I'll tell you the truth, because you're the one sharing, the audio is super compressed, and I'm having trouble picking up some of the nuances. So
go listen to it and let's just cut it.
But from what I'm hearing through here, I do hear what sounds like multiple tracks, but he's got a very good, there is definitely a track, again, it's kind of squashed. It has that sort of like sound when I'm listening to it, but he definitely does have a track where he has a really strong, really well-balanced rock grit going on.
Nice.
Now that rock and singing grit is sometimes people, now I know you don't think this, but sometimes people think that death metal and deathcore and black metal screaming is the same thing as rock grit, and they actually are different in some ways. There's different balance. It's a lot less of what I teach, but what I will tell you is that to have the sound that I'm able to hear through the compressed audio, which is where you can hear what is essentially clean chord connection with the tissues above coming together and bracing in just the right balance to get that more TV static.
Yeah, is it the false vocal cords getting just a little?
You know, I've seen it done a lot of different ways. There's a really good. I really like the way that Complete Vocal Technique breaks things down. They have like drive. They have like sometimes it's because you can brace with your false folds. You can bring your arytenoids in and get rattle, and they do sound a little bit different. Again, this is more like rock grit singing, which is less. You know, I'm over here being like. Right, so it's a little different than what I do, but it's a really well controlled grit. It's a very well controlled grit, and I'm also equally impressed at how he's sliding in and out of it. Right?
Yes, with his head voice, mixed voice, like has a lot of, like that's the first thing, that section that we started, section 2, I would say. Before like the pre-chorus leading to the chorus, like the whole pre-chorus was like in this head voice that was not breathy at all, and that's always like step 1 for my students. Get rid of that breathiness in the vocal cords, because vocal cords, like when you're in head voice, they're basically longer and thinner, and it's so it's harder to get a full closure when you're so long, you know. So that's our first step when we work on the head voice and mixed voice. And he's doing it so well. Like it's really, really like just a clean like through, like, and then he gets it a little uglier with the twang. And then I think it's probably helping him get with his belt after, because both requires twang. So the twang is like that resonance that we get in the sound. You can have it in head voice or chest voice. But yeah, amazing control. Wow, this is so good.
Yeah, you know, and that's what you're talking about with head voice. That's where there is actually surprisingly a lot of crossover with the heavier, harsher, nastier side of vocals. Okay, so there's going to be a heavy YouTube cut because we had a technical difficulty, but that's fine. So, you know, you're talking about his head voice, and obviously, you know, a lot of the grit that he's using, it's more rock than like extreme metal, like I was talking about. But with the head voice, there's actually a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
So a lot of times with my students, like just before this, like you had a lesson before this, I also did. And my student and I, we're working on this sort of sound like this. And one of the things that's really helpful for that is head voice. And a lot of times new screamers, they wonder why. And a big reason for that is because, you know, obviously when we're singing, you know this, I'm not telling you for you. I'm telling you for the crowd.
Oh, I know. Don't worry. Tell them.
Sometimes people in the comments are like, "Don't you know she knows that?" And it's like, of course I know. I'm talking to you. Like,
we're just opening a conversation in the podcast format, but we know.
We of course. But so anyway, a lot of people don't realize that it's not just what the vocal cords are doing, but it's the position of the larynx, right? And so when I'm up here, my larynx is pretty high. So I work with my students on achieving head voice. Now, you know, I'm not trying to teach them how to have like a beautiful, perfectly balanced head voice. But we'll do like this like wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man thing. So what that kind of looks like is I have them, we don't even talk about head voice really. I'm just like, hey, you know, let's do this to loosen up. Let's do this to get limber. They don't really know why we're doing it for the first time.
Sometimes it's better.
But we do like, yeah, we go, you know, oh, and what I'll do is I'll be like, oh, okay, that was pretty good. I downplay it, and I'm like, when you get to the top, I just want to hear something. Can you hold it? And they're like, okay, sure. And not every time, but a lot of the time, even students who are like, oh, I can't possibly reach my head voice, this will happen. Something like, oh, and I'm like, that's not so hard, is it? Because one thing that we have talked about is how so much of what, I mean, obviously some of it's coordination, some of it's muscle control, but a lot of it's just overthinking.
Oh, yes,
right?
overthinking.
And a lot of times students who want to sing high notes and can't, they're just thinking too hard. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sometimes my students, like, they ask me so many questions, and then I'm just like, wait, I heard you. I know what your goals are. This is the little weird sound I want you to do for 3 minutes. Let's just do it before. Some people, they just want to talk the whole class, and I'm like, no, we're not going to talk. You're just going to do like the that I want you to do, and then the and then you're going to see the magic happening. Just wait for it. Trust me, I've been doing that for a lot of time.
For a long time. Yeah, you know, one thing I often tell my students is when they just want to talk about, like, in the harsh vocal world, one of the most common questions is it false chord or fry? That's one of the main things people ask, right? And understandable. But, you know, eventually I'll have a student where I'm like, if you want to just like chat with people about vocal terms, like, you can do that for free, you know, like, you don't have to pay me to do that. Like, if you want to like build your, like, let's make this time more valuable to you than just chit-chatting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that case, in the spirit of not chit-chatting, I'm gonna shut up.
So we just keep going. So that was an amazing chorus. Like, let's go into the second verse.
Great chorus.
Yeah, so that was the chorus. Very, very good. Amazing control. Okay, let's see. Second verse.
Don't believe what you read in the magazines. It still hurts when you question what I'm doing this for. Why won't you just let it ride? Why don't you just disappear? I watch the light dance through the trees. I see the
Okay, I had a thought when we were listening to that second verse.
Go ahead.
Something I sometimes say to my students, you know, when like everything's technically okay, but the student sounds boring.
Yeah.
You know what? And then,
yeah.
and sometimes what's missing, in my opinion, is kind of that seduction vibes. And sometimes for my students, like, we're singing rock, we're singing heavy metal, we're singing like intense stuff, or even like pop for my singers in Montreal. And sometimes there's just like kind of plain, everything's okay. Then like, you need the suave. And then I'm just like, okay, let's just sing some Fly Me to the Moon. Just like, sing it to me. Like, oh yeah. Like some jazz crooner vibes. And then they get the tone. And then we go back to their rock. And I tell them, apply that singer crooner vibe and into your rock songs, your pop songs, especially in the verses. And the magic happens. So that's just a little thought, because I find his tone is so sexy. You know, it's like, It's like, okay.
He's definitely laying it on for sure. You know, and I think it's interesting because sometimes, like, now I haven't given a clean singing lesson. I take them very rarely because that's 99% your
since I'm there, right? For the past 2 years, yeah.
The only time I ever take a clean singing student is if they're like, no, I like the way you sing and I want you and nobody else because I specifically like the way you sing. I'm like,
So
okay,
super
sure.
fan.
In that
That's
case,
cool.
fine, right? So that usually works out to like maybe one at a time. But it's interesting because some students, the more emotion, the more delivery, the more suave, I think you use the word you use, the less control they have. But for some students, you're right. It really, I've had a student before where she sits at a keyboard, you play any note, she's gonna match it perfectly, like machine level accuracy. When she started actually singing, what happened is there would be some flat notes here and there. And so we didn't need to run scales. And so what we did was I was like, just overdo the emotion. Pitch was amazing.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, sometimes just adding that is really useful. And it's interesting. It's interesting to hear him doing it. I mean, that's kind of where I have to leave it because that's, again, more your territory.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the really the image that I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, it's a rock song, but there's still that little seduction vibe and cry. And like, I don't really know what he's talking about, but it's like.
I mean, me neither. Because I'm mostly analyzing. I'll tell you, especially this combination has become so much more common over the years, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. It's interesting when I listen to a band, I always like to try to figure out like who their influences might be. And it's not to be like, oh, they just sound like this band, but because I like to know what they're coming from. I like to think about like what was the artist's mindset when they were writing this song, and oftentimes you're just guessing, right? But with this, all I'll say is it's amazing what Bring Me the Horizon did for the music world, because there is so much recent like a lot of people when they were talking to me about President, they were like, oh yeah, it's like super Sleep Token-y, and I do hear that, but for me I hear more Bring Me the Horizon. I hear more I almost hear a little bit of like Wage War's more recent stuff. They had an album which was there were a couple songs very like this, and so this clean and harsh dichotomy it's becoming more common, and I think it's one thing that makes it impressive is how he's sliding. I can't remember if this happened before or after the tech issue, so I'm just going to mention it briefly. But his grit is really rock music grit, and it's different. It's different from what I teach, so it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. But the balance between his chord connection and the tissues above coming together, be it the false folds or the arytenoids, like we mentioned, complete vocal technique, I think has pretty good, they've got drive, they've got rattle.
Yeah,
got,
it's my next on the list of thing to training to get. Yeah.
I was looking at doing the same thing actually.
Should do it together.
But anyway, there you go. But it's it's really interesting how he's sliding between the two. But anyway,
let's keep going. We're almost.
Going,
we're 2/3 in about. Yeah. Just a quick note for those who would like to work this chorus, because I was coaching a similar type of song with my student earlier today. And if you don't have a mixed voice yet, mixed voice is like the high notes he's doing, it's not just head voice, it's like meaner, this type of, we call it the head mix. If you don't have it yet, just do a complete false, like chest voice, falsetto, chest voice, falsetto. First step would be to just work the flipping through your registers. Just a quick tip if you want to practice this, even if your mixed voice is not ready yet, you can still.
Have you ever heard? I heard this exercise a year or two ago, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. But basically, what the guy was saying, I can't remember who it was. You're scrolling through shorts and you see stuff, and I thought this one, I was like, maybe there's some validity to that. But basically, he was saying you take a falsetto, what many people would call falsetto, and you slowly chew on it. And while you chew on it, you think about the the feeling of vibration in the front of your face getting a little stronger, but not pushing harder, really. I think, but it's like, and like, I'm obviously not doing it because I've never done it before, but like for him, it helped. He was like, oh, and then I move into like this more chord connected mix sound. Have you ever done anything like that?
Nobody makes perfect sense, because when I explain the mix, it's basically a head voice, no breathiness, no raspiness, so really clean. You start with that, and then you add some twang. And the twang is the areoepiglottic sphincter shrinking in the back, and it's really close to when you swallow. So him saying the chewing thing, it's basically adding your twang into your head voice, I feel. So like, yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah.
And you know, so I have used that with students, but again, for grit, not for clean
but both
singing.
of us,
So-
we teach twang a lot, and like my students, then they go do harsh vocals and they tell me, oh, you know, there's like that one student that was saying that my clean exercise helped your harsh vocal exercise and stuff like that. So, okay, let's just keep going. It was just a quick tip. If you don't have that loud head mix sound, don't worry about it. You can still practice that song and just use your falsetto for now and take a couple of vocal lessons, and we'll get there.
Shame it's not enough for me. Days, there's something else like decaying years. I'm flickering now. Just the only thing that knows the pain, begging for a tightness. We're just dead too long. Days, there's something else like decaying years.
Woo!
Yeah, you know, there's
Nice.
that one more like extreme vocal.
Yeah,
right,
one
that's in
scream
there.
for you.
one scream, which is like really a hallmark of the genre, and I think that's really, really fascinating. I get students who they're like, I just need to learn one scream because they want to write music like this.
Yes.
They don't need. Now, this is the first song I'm hearing, so I'm not making a statement about the entirety of him as a vocalist, but just from the song, like, you wouldn't need a wide range of extreme metal vocals. You could just have one. And I work with students, so they're like, I really only need one or two screams, and you're like, oh, okay.
Like me, I
easy mode.
I have to take some lessons now that my voice is better.
Yeah, now that your voice is better, and that was a really cool one. So
Yeah,
a lot of
super
times when people
effective, just like
yeah, a lot of times when people hear that, what they want to do is they want to pin it down as either like a false chord or a fry sound. Right? They'll want to be, and so what they'll do is they'll start with one of those basses, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to do, but it can be hard to transition. So I've actually kind of changed the way, because that's a scream I teach all the time.
what was that? How would you describe the type of scream he did?
Buckle up. We're in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of doing that right now.
Okay.
So a lot of times what people will do is they'll want to approach it as a false chord or as a fry tone. And so what'll happen is they'll do one of the more typical starting places, and that can be kind of difficult because we heard balance of vocal cord activation, but a lot more grit. So if you start from like what is typically called your false chord state, you're very much in like a chest voice vocal posture, which can make it hard to get up. And if you do like the typical, very difficult to manage like fry starting point like this, it's going to be hard to get that grit. So what I usually do with students now when they want to do a scream like this is I kind of take away that false chord fry dichotomy, and we do a lot of sounds that naturally encourage grit and naturally get their voice this way. We get really playful. So like a good example of how I might now when I do this, there's going to be a lot of like deathcore and black metal coloring because I have almost 20 years of muscle memory.
Yeah.
Making it sound like that, but the core philosophy is essentially going to be the same. But like one of my common ones is I'll have a student loosely spit out food, not literally, but they'll pretend they're taking. And to make it fun, I usually ask, "What's a food you hate? What's a food you think is overrated?" To get them in a playful mindset, right? That's the whole reason for the question, not because I am interested because I'm fat and I always want to know what people's opinions of food are, right? But anyways. So, a student might say, I had a student say seafood, and the poor guy works at a seafood restaurant.
Oh my God.
Well, they serve seafood among other things. But anyways, so, we do this, we go, and we don't talk about great, we just, bleh, oh, gross, bleh, oh, nasty, bleh, bleh. And then all we do is we play with variations of airflow, right? We play with variations of airflow. So if I go, bleh, 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 whoa, right? We can just, and that takes time. It takes time. But so rather than being like, this is false chord or this is fry, I say, hey, what does it sound like when your voice tries to go for something in the general vicinity? And then we rock it there. So you can call that false chord. You can call that fry. For me, I kind of think of it as a combination. The reason I think of it as a combination is I've seen myself do that under a scope. And while scientifically, I am not a sample size of one, me is not a good scientific indicator, but when I do it, there's a combination of things rattling around, right?
Yeah.
So you have this like, oh, 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 and if you're watching this and that playful approach to extreme vocalization is interesting, I do have a free vocal course I just made where I walk a student through 3 steps, 3 different phases of just being playful and exploring their voice. Link in the description below.
Oh my God, I would take it.
You could. I mean, it's very beginner focused. So you're gonna watch Veronna. You're gonna watch it, and you'll be like, I already know all that, right? But
okay, well, I'm gonna book my private lesson then.
There you go. I mean, you can anytime. But so, I'm interested because you do what a lot of people I think really take away from the comments when you do a video here is they like when you talk about vocal production.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, you're not just a singer, but you produce as well.
Yep.
So, and especially because I'm losing a lot of the vocal production. What are some of your thoughts on like how his voice is sitting? What sort of effects are being used? I feel like I heard either a vocoder or a multiplier, but again, hard for me to tell.
Yeah, especially there's so many effects. Like it's really I should like I was not focusing on that on my first listen, but yeah, I love vocal production. What is vocal production is really basically just recording vocals and then doing a music production with the voices. That's like something I really love. What I can say, and sometimes I have to tell my students, the volume is not like what we hear is not what is being made. So there's there's a step in vocal production that I can maybe talk about, especially if you record yourself at home. It's a step before the compressor. Okay, so you really just have your waveform, okay? First, make sure it doesn't clip. So clipping is like basically when you have too much sound and it's just like, it's square. You see the waveform and it's just flat. It's not wavy anymore. That means put your gain down a bit. And then, so make sure your gain is okay. So the loudest you're going to go is not going to be too much. And so sometimes the quiet parts, like in head voice, it's probably really, really tiny. Those parts are really probably tiny. So before putting your compressor and adjusting it, the compressor, what it's going to do is like basically when you're going to be loud, it's going to, that's not a real explanation, but if I'm compressing 101 for like kindergarten people, it would be when it's too loud, it's going to put you down. When you're really soft, it's going to put you higher. So basically it's almost the same level all the time. But before putting that machine, you need to do a gain staging. Do you know what that is?
Oh yes, I do.
Oh yes, you do.
I mean,
very important.
Because a lot of my screams are super quiet, and a lot of them are super loud. So I know all about
gain staging, right? So you take that little,
oh yeah,
you take that little smooth part. So basically you want your waveform to be about the same level. So you're going to cut, adjust, like put it lower, put it higher, so that at the end, everything is basically the same level. And then you put your compressor. So that's for sure something they did before anything else. And that's a very, very important step. And then there are layers of voices in there, like so many. But yeah, that could be a whole other video.
I always tell my students that they want their tracks to look like fuzzy caterpillars and fuzzy meatballs, right? Like you should see the full fuzzy caterpillar. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And because there's so much noise in metal vocals, you get like it literally. If you're not like zoomed in super close, it literally looks like a little fuzzy line.
Really?
Yeah, and that's like that's super duper.
Can you make me want to just
important.
see it on my end? I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look that different from a clean song.
From a clean thing, okay.
Yeah, it's not that different. But another thing is proximity as well, especially these days, because a lot of people, they're recording at home. They're not recording in pro studios. So if you sing really quietly, right? Like if you're like, hey, in the water was the sky above, and you're back here, from the riff I hear my voice roll, and you throw a big compressor on that, you might get a bunch of room noise that you couldn't hear.
Yes.
So maybe in the water, but then if you're in your chest voice, and now you're going to get like too much low end. So there's also like mic proximity, which is really important too. I remember when I first started getting into music, I realized how I was like, I can scream. Yay. And then I realized that's just the beginning. There's and I was like, God damn it. There's so much more. But anyways, yeah, I'm just riffing. What else? I have some other thoughts about the song, but I want to make sure I don't just rant like I do.
Oh, I mean, I really loved it. It's definitely my type of heavy rock stuff. Yeah, because it's catchy. The melody is catchy. A lot of different vocal techniques and just a little bit of scream, just the amount I love. He could have screamed a little bit more. I could have taken it more.
In a lot of times when we review songs like this, my students will be like, "Oh, do you wish he did like a ton more screaming?" I was like, "Well, no, because I don't think it would suit the song. Like if he was just doing deathcore vocals over this, it would ruin it. The song would be wrecked." One thing I thought was really cool is, obviously not the first one to do it, but I don't remember exactly how it goes, but you've got these chuggy guitars, dum dum bum bum, and then he's got like this melody, that's like very like playful. So you've got these guitars going, and he's like,
the melody is really poppy. I said it.
Yeah, it's really playful, and obviously we've heard like major key against harsh like heavy guitars like Astronoid. The whole band Astronoid is just built on that, right? But I thought it was almost like Maroon 5 with chugs. It was weird, but I kind of dug it.
He has a little R&B vibe, especially in the verses.
Does
like
he?
his vibe, like his tone. Like I could see him singing some, pop R&B stuff. But yeah,
I'm also curious about the imagery.
Is he always wearing that mask, or is it just for that music video? I have no idea.
I think he's always wearing the mask,
Oh.
and I don't know if the actor was him or not. But obviously, so I'm not going to get like super off on a tangent here, but I'm just going to talk about what I see. And obviously, living where I live, my sight of it might be like sort of colored, right? It might be sort of influenced, but like it was interesting to me. Now I don't know a whole lot about it, but so the band is called President. You got a guy with a mask that's like loose and like not fitting very well. There's a cross, right? So a very strong combination of religion and government. And then at one point he goes, so that's the normal cross, like the normal Christian cross, and then he puts the other one on, which if I remember correctly, this is just I did grow up in a religious community, but not one that had this image. But I think that's called it's either the Cross of Lorraine or the Patriarchal Cross. I think the Cross of Lorraine, that they're farther apart. I was looking it up. I was Googling it while we were listening, but I was getting too distracted, so I stopped. But so it's a normal cross, and then the president puts the patriarchal, turns it into the patriarchal cross, and I'm like, that was intention. That like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my image.
Tell us in the comments what you think. It's good engagement. Just tell us.
And I think I'm sure the answers are out there, but again, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
but like you got a guy who looks old and loosey-goosey, taking religion and making it patriarchal, and he holds a government office. I was like, dang.
Dang, that's some statement right there. Okay.
Yeah, if they're saying what I think they're saying, they ain't holding back, which, hey, I respect it. Go for it.
You go for it. We're not going to talk about it, but go for it.
I think that I will.
You will?
But yeah, it doesn't bother me. I mean, whatever. People get mad at me about all sorts of stuff. But one thing I think is, so for me, the song was really cool. Not my thing, but I want to know more about the band, because I want to know, like, what's the whole... You don't name yourself president and put together all this imagery and it's just for fun.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
I don't know, it just seemed cool. You know what I mean? So if you're watching this and you've made it this far, I definitely would be interested if it's bands like a band like Ghost. Like Ghost. We've talked about Ghost on the channel.
Yes, I love Ghost.
Most
yes.
of you. But that sort of imagery is so thoughtful.
Yes.
So, he's got all these characters that he plays. But yeah, it was cool. I want to know more about that. So that's kind of all I got. To Abby, your student.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you very
Abby.
much
Good
for the
choice.
suggestion.
I'm going to definitely listen to more of their songs. It's really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And very a lot interesting to see where they go. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up here? Because like I said, that's pretty much everything I got.
Yeah, just a thought for my students that I often say belt without any raspiness, and they're gonna look at that video. Hey, I want to sound like that with that rock grit and everything. It was like, get your clean belt first, and then you add the grit. Don't belt with grit, because that's the only way you can do it. You're gonna hurt yourself most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, so if you can do it clean and then add the grit and it's easy, perfect. But if the raspy one is the only one you have, ding 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 ding, that's
I think
that's not good.
In the best case scenarios, what I have found, and this is just personal experience. So this is anecdotal evidence. So take it to the viewer, take it how you will. But one thing I've found is that students who learn gritty belting first, right? They may not hurt themselves. It does happen, but it often doesn't. But one thing that they do often run into is a lot of difficulty moving away from the necessary engagement that they need. Right. So what'll happen is, there will be times back when I was giving more clean singing lessons where I would get clean singing students and they'd hear Kardashev, my band, and they'd be like, your voice is always so open and relaxed. And they're like, I can gritty belt just like Chris Cornell. And they're right. Like their gritty belt is phenomenal. I'm like, holy crap, you do sound like you're amazing. But they're like, but that's all I can do, because I've learned from a place of, I don't like to call it tension, because when you're doing it correct, it's more of a strategic engagement. But they're like, I've learned from a place of strategic engagement. So, if that's the reason why I sometimes say like, maybe building at least a decent baseline of a clean voice is a good idea. So then that way your grit is something you can switch on and off versus something you have to train out of. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm just rambling, but that's all I got.
But that's what I'm
everything.
doing with my students. Like, we are able to add some grit afterwards, and I'm able to, like, on my really high belt, sometimes when I'm in the zone and I'm feeling it, I'm just, let's just add a little grit, and then it's okay. Then it's fine. And I don't lose my voice and no nuds and everything's fine. So, but a lot of the type of students you're talking about that arrive and they're, wow, it sounds amazing. Personally, all of them that arrived in my classroom or online, whatever, they have holes in their registers. Most of them.
Yeah, all the time.
Right?
All the time.
Right?
A lot of the
So
time,
that's not a sign of
yes.
healthy vocal cords. There's a problem in there. That's just what
Do you mean hole in their register as in lack of vocal cord connection, or do you mean hole in their register as in areas where they can't control?
There's just nothing coming through. Like, there's gonna be a couple of low notes, then they go a little higher, and then nothing, and then they belt, and then nothing, no head voice, and then they have that really high head voice. So they're just like.
Right around here. So if they were to try to bridge, they might sound like this. You're saying, and I'm going to simulate it. They might sound like ooh, that like little gap. Is that what you're talking about?
Gaps, but it's all rasp, and when they sing, it's all really intense and raspy, and costing them a lot, and they get tired really fast. So that's usually,
Yeah.
but they sound amazing. Like we would do a session and we would record stuff and we would take our time and maybe one day we just do the chorus. So sometimes what I tell them is like, sometimes it sounds good on the recording, but then look at your singer on like 10, 15 years.
I just remembered something.
Look at the singer. Did he change his vocal technique? And so my example, sometimes it's Avenged Sevenfold. Early stuff, super gritty. And then the older he gets, I'm not sure, but he changed his vocal technique, got way cleaner because it was just not sustainable.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So a couple of bands, you see them, they cancel tour. They have a surgery, then they have to relearn to sing, and then everybody's like, "Oh, I preferred the first album." I was like, "Yeah, but it was just not healthy."
Yeah, I think a lot of the times though with that, I mean, this is like a whole like 2-hour video.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times though, what'll happen now, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh, grit is totally risk-free and there's nothing bad that can ever possibly happen." And like, no, of course not. That would be foolish to say. But oftentimes when we do look at gritty singers who did have, you're right, yeah, they had that situation where they messed their voice up, right? A lot of times what they were doing was they were flying blind.
Oh yeah.
A lot of these singers. So what I often will do, and sometimes this gets me in a little bit of hot water online, but people will be like, "There's grit, there's a vocal situation, therefore grit equal bad." And I will say, well, there's grit, but remember, as a singer, you live a holistic life. You have like, did they have a decent education? How did they learn to do that grit? How did they treat their voice outside of the show? Right? What was their drug use situation?
Hygiene, yeah,
like,
life hygiene,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, what was their vocal hygiene? So while I do think introducing grit, and this is not a statement to you, it's just a statement overall.
Oh yes,
and
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. While I think that grit certainly can introduce new factors that can cause complications, I think that for it's important to remember that there are often a lot of factors going on. Because equally we have people who do like super crazy vocals and nothing bad happens. But what I remembered earlier in the video, I was like, "Oh, I want to tell you something I do to help my students get comfortable."
Yes.
Being a little bit louder. I'll tell you this and then we can really wrap it up. This is also something I do for my students to help them train away from tension. If they've started learning with a very, you hear this a lot in people who do like extreme vocals. If they do something more like, or like a, like those are very compressed styles.
Yes, yeah.
So what we do is, and again, I get sneaky. I say, "Oh, I just want to check levels. Can I just check levels?" Or, "Oh, I'm just kind of curious to, just see if I can hear your voice, if the mic's going to mute it." And I have them sing a nursery rhyme. So they go, "Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream." And I'm like, "Okay, pause. That was boring as all hell, but you were relaxed. Your voice was placed nicely, and you were mostly on pitch. So we got 3 things that now, like, I hate to tell you, but we just proved to you that you can do it. So now we know, right?" So you get them to sing like a nursery rhyme, and they're like, "Oh crap, you're right." And I'm like, "Yeah." So. And that's great for singing and screaming too. Do you ever have people sing nursery rhymes or like, A, B, C, D?
Yeah, sometimes it's happy birthday to you. Yeah, and stuff like that. But yeah, this is my go-to song is Happy Birthday, I would say. It's always my birthday every day. Just sing happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday or bon anniversaire? Bon anniversaire.
Yeah, in Quebec we say bonne fête.
Bonne fête, happy party, happy celebration, happy party. I like that. That's pretty good. You know what I like? You know what I like about that even more? So with obviously, the Quebecois pronunciation is fight versus
fête,
fête. And so fight, bon fight, like fight, happy fight. Right? All right. We're just yapping. We just got anything else you want to mention, Veronna?
It was really good. And I think he's really singing in a healthy way. Why I say that? Because he's able to remove the raspiness and put it again, remove the grit, put it again. When a singer is
Yeah.
able to sing clean and choose where to sing with the raspiness, it's a good sign. That's all I got to
100%
say.
agree. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Abby. Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, and if you want to take
we're out.
lessons, the link is below. All right, bye.
Hell yeah. Bye.